Okay, so for minor project 2, we are going to look at the movies 2016 data set. And on this, we're going to do tabular and graphical summaries for a managerial report. Now, you already have your template for the managerial report from minor project 1, so just use that same template. However, we're going to go through each one of these 4 questions to show you how to do this in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is to add these filters. Now, these filters are super handy because, as you see, you can click on them. You can deselect all. You can see what's the most, the highest number, $532.18. I think this is in millions. It is. You can also see quickly what the least amount is here, $23.59. You can play with these numbers. Sometimes this is handy if you are searching for a specific number. You can click on that and it would show up for you. You can go back to data on your toolbar, hit clear. That will clear all of your searches there in the filter. You also have these number filters, which is helpful. If you wanted to look at something, let's say maybe between, perhaps we're looking at something between 100 and 200, then we could look at that and it would show you everything between 100 and 200 in this data set. You can also do number filters, let's say maybe greater than 300 if you wanted to do that. So you can play with this. That's really how you get good with Excel, is you just play with the data and see what you can see. Now I also, let me show you first how to get this filter on here. So if you highlight whatever it is you want to filter, in this case, I just want these 4 columns, and you hit filter on your toolbar. Here I turned it off, and here I've turned it back on. Okay, so now I also want to summarize some information. So I'm going to do a sum, which is basically your equals, a min, max, and average. Now with the sum, here I've already got the formulas for you. So you can type these formulas in. There's a few other ways to do this. So I'll show you. If you wanted to type in the sum, again, that's the total, you can just tell them equals sum, parentheses, and then the cells that you want. In this case, you could highlight the cells. So here it's going to be B2 down to B101. And then you close that off, you'll see here with another parentheses. Now, another way to quickly do sum, if you go to the home toolbar and you find this image, that's the sum calculator. So basically you just click on that. It automatically knows you want to do a sum for everything in that column, and you hit enter. Now it didn't bring up the $sign. So to get the $sign, you go back to your toolbar and here's the $sign. If you wanted to round it to the nearest dollar, you can also play with these numbers up here to where you can round it. Notice how it rounded to the nearest dollar, or you can just leave it with the cents in there as is. Now, if I want to just drag this to the next column, you can definitely drag it and it will drag your formula right over. So you see it's doing another sum of column D. I'm going to do it one more way for you, just so you can see Excel has a lot of different options here. But if you type it in equals sum, and then you do your parentheses, let's say you have a very large Excel spreadsheet. You wouldn't want to necessarily drag it like this, but you could click here, do your shift, control, and down arrow key. So that's shift, control, down arrow. It will automatically take you to the bottom of the data set. Then you put your end parentheses. There you go. We can do the $sign. We're going to do this for min and max too. So basically you're just changing the first part. That's your command, your first part. So instead of sum, we're doing min. So you'll see here, if we look back at sum, it has sum B2 to B102. Now we're going to do min B2 to B101. 101 or 102, there's an empty spot there, so it can be 102. Let me show you this function button up here. So if you click the function, this gives you an option if you're thinking, well, I want to do a certain command or function, but I don't know what it's called. The most recently used pops up. So here you'll see min pops up, and you can tell it, well, I want to start at B1, and then I want it to go down to B, actually, let's do it this way. Function, min, and we want to put them all in the same line. So if we highlight it, you'll see how that function pops in. And I'm just dragging with my mouse. Now I'm going to close that with the parentheses by hitting OK. Okay, so you have the min C2 to 101. Here you have the min B2 to 101. So again, you can type it. You can use that function option up here. And that's pretty much it with the min. Now I do want to show you one other option here with this function bar. There's several that will pop up in this box here. These are the most recently used, but there's a lot of other ones. So you can say all, and it will bring up all. So for example, if I want to do standard deviation, you can find standard deviation in here. You can also type it. So you have several standard deviations. I typically just do the top one. If you want to look at maybe mean, now it doesn't bring up the word mean, like mean, median, and mode, because it's also average. So I just use average instead of mean, and that will give you the average number for this column. Let's see, if you did want to find mode, that's an option. You could use mode. So there's plenty of different options in here that you can use. But for right now, we're just going to do min, max, and average. So as you see, I've got min, I've got max, and I've got average. Now we can copy those by just dragging them across. And there you go. You have that for each of your variables. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a descriptive statistics table. So let's get started with that. And to do that, I'm going to remove this because we don't need that right now. I'm going to go to the descriptive statistics table. So to do that, let's go up here. I want to make sure that you have the data and analysis tool pack. And if you go to data on your toolbar, you should see data analysis tool pack up here. If you don't have that, you can go to file. You can go to, let's see, options. It's down here in more. Go to add-ins. And then you should see your data analysis tool pack right here. And you can hit OK. You can also say manage Excel add-ins, hit go. And then there you'll see your different options for your add-ins, but you definitely want the analysis tool pack. It's okay if you pick some of these other ones too, and then hit OK. Okay, so descriptive statistics is a quick and easy way to get a summary of your data once you have that data analysis tool pack on your toolbar. So click that. It will bring up a lot of options. Here you can do more advanced statistics such as correlation, ANOVA, regression, t-test. But for right now, we want to just do a descriptive statistics. We hit OK. Now we tell it what input range that we want. So let's just do one column at a time. You can start with the heading. If you have the heading, basically that's your label, that will help. And you want to tell it, so highlight that column. Then you want to click label in first row. You want it to go to a new worksheet and you want summary statistics. You have a few other options, this kth largest and kth smallest. Basically, that's your min and max, but it automatically gives you min and max. This gives you the option if I wanted to maybe look at number 2, like the second largest and the second smallest, you could change this, but I don't really want to do that. I just want the smallest and the largest, which will automatically happen with summary statistics, and then hit OK. So that's going to bring it up on a new worksheet because we told it to. You can double click these columns or you can drag them out, however you want to do. And then this shows you now your mean, standard error, median mode, all of this information. And it gives you a chance to also verify. So we looked at sum over here, 3208.50. If we go back here, which I deleted it, but we could quickly look at the sum of this column, 3208.50. It's down here in this gray spot. If it's not, you can right click and tell it what you want to look at. So in this case, I want it sum. Okay, so 3208.50. I like to double check things just to make sure it's going to work. All right, so that's going to give you a great way to look at your data and do a summary. The next part of this question is to look at doing graphs. So when we do graphs, you basically need to look at each column separately, and we have to figure out what do we want our graph to look like, because if we just came up here and we did insert a recommended chart, well, you know, it could give us a chart like this, but what's that telling us? We really don't know. So this is probably the opening gross sales. And down here, well, maybe that's the column, I'm sorry, the actual row itself. So row 1 is 155 million. And that makes sense because it's putting 155 million right here. But for an intuitive data visualization, this as it is not intuitive. So we wouldn't want that. We want to do a little bit more work with this. Okay, so one option that we have is to look at the top 10 movies. And from there, we could do a bar chart or a pie chart. So to get this in order, I actually like to copy it over into a new worksheet. And then from here, we're just going to look at one column at a time. Okay, so an easy way to order these from least to greatest or greatest to least is to, let's see here, go to data, and then you have these A to Z or Z to A. If I click on that, it's going to order it from least to greatest. If I click on this one, it will order it from greatest to least. So I think I want a chart that has the top 10 movies as far as opening gross sales. So I'm going to take these first 10 right here, and then the rest of these I'm just going to get rid of. I don't want those in my chart. Now here we have a nice summary of the top 10 movies, and we want to put this into a graph. So if we go to insert recommended chart, you can see, you know, here's one bar chart. It gives you the name of the movie, and it gives you the total of opening gross sales. It also is in order, as I would expect. The number 1 was Captain America, number 2 was Batman. So this one would definitely work. Once you get that in here, you can drag it. Oops, not that. Drag the whole box over. If you wanted to change the color scheme, you can go up here to change colors. You know, you can get kind of creative with that. You also have these other options if you want to come in here and do something like that. And you'll notice it's bringing in dollar amounts. If you want that there, you can leave it. If you don't want that, you do have options. If you just click on it where it's highlighted and you hit delete, then it's gone. It kind of cleans things up a bit because you can put that in your written narrative. You don't have to have it on the graph where it clutters it up. You can also, let's see, if you right click and you go to grid lines and axis, that gives you other options that you can do. You can also do that down here with the axis and grid lines for the titles. And you can click in here if you want to do maybe add a trend line, which would look like this. Basically, the trend is, it's going down because we picked the top 10. So that makes sense. In this case, a trend line isn't really necessary. So we could just take that back off. But that gives you some options to play with. So that's a decent graph for your first column of data. Now to do the next graph, we want to copy this over to another tab or worksheet. We're going to get rid of this one because we've already done it. And we're going to get rid of these two. And then you want the total gross sales in millions. This one here was opening gross sales. So here we want total gross sales. Again, if you want to do the same type of graph, you can just sort it. And then once you have picked your top 10, we will get rid of the rest. Come back up here and do another chart. Now you can be more specific. If I want to do a pie chart, you could do a pie chart. It's going to look like that. Gives you some options. You could also go back to the insert recommended charts. This is the one that we used before. And that way it's a little bit consistent. You can go back into your chart design, get creative with it. And yeah, that's kind of fun, and go from there. So that gives you another option for your charts. Now, once we get over here into the number of weeks in the theater and the number of theaters and the number of weeks in release, this one kind of lends itself to a different chart. So I'm going to move that over here. We'll get rid of these two because they're done. And I want to see number of theaters. So which movie was in however many theaters? So let's see. Secret Life of Pets was in the most theaters, and Manchester by the Sea was in the least number of theaters. So that's interesting. Maybe we want to just look at those movies that were in 2,000 theaters or less, and we'll put that in a pie chart. So go up here to insert. Let's do recommended chart, see what happens. It does recommend a pie chart, so we could use that one. We can go in here if we want to and pick a different looking chart. We can also change the colors. Let's see, and we'll just do that. Okay, now you'll notice that sometimes your text doesn't quite fit. So you have options. You can come in here and reduce your text. I wouldn't go any lower than 8, but that gives you an option to try and get it in there a little bit better. You can also, if you enlarge the pie chart, that usually gives you a little bit more room. There you go. And then it will fit. So that way you have everything uniformed. So we'll just put that back to 9 and try to squeeze it in that spot. There we go. Okay, so that gives you another chart. Maybe we want to see movies in fewer than 2,000 theaters. Don't forget to title your chart. All right, and then the last one that we're going to do is weeks in release. We'll get rid of these. We've already done those. And we'll go to data. Let's see. So maybe we want to see which one was, out for public viewing the most number of weeks. And right now that's Hidden Figures. Maybe we want to see which ones were out for the least number of weeks. Okay. So perhaps we want to see if it's 10 weeks or less. I don't know. You can get creative with this and how you want to do it. If you actually wanted to include some of this information, we could look at total gross sales. and then pick the top 10 movies. Okay, so we're not actually going to use these other columns, but we want to see how many weeks they were out in release. And then let's just do an average to see, on average, how much money did they make per week? And from there, we can also do this. So average per week was Batman versus Superman, which is interesting because our total gross sales, Batman versus Superman, was number 8 on the list. You'll see that there at 330.36. But for us, let's go back here, Batman versus Superman, 330.36. It took them 12 weeks to earn that. So that's 27.53, and that's in millions. So 27 million a week. That's pretty good. All right. And then the, I think this is number 10, top 10, 13.52 million per week, but it took 20 weeks to do that. So that gives you some options. And then if that's what we wanted to do, now if we just did the chart, if we delete this, what's going to happen is these numbers will error out. Let me show you why. See how that happened? The reason for that is that this is a formula. So if I get rid of this information, this formula doesn't know what to do. So to fix that, we want to copy. Then we want to paste special values. Okay, now that's actually a number, not a formula. And we'll delete this. All right, and then we also want to say that that is in millions. And then we can do our next chart. I think I'll do another, well, this one's kind of interesting. So average per week in millions. All right. Now, one thing that you'll notice here before I close this video out is these should be dollars. So you have some that are showing way too many cents. So to do that, we can either just hit the dollar sign, or you can also use this if you want to round it to the nearest dollar. In this case, because we're actually doing it in the millions, that doesn't mean cents, it means 27.53 million. We'll leave it like it is, but that cleans it up a little bit more for us, just to make your data visualization more appealing.